Dear friends, teachers, parents, our alumni, and my dear students, Jesuit education has a very rich tradition of 500 years. And these 5 centuries of rich tradition is, in fact, an inspiration for all the Jesuits and Jesuit institutions. At the same time, it is also a challenge for us. Because the purpose of Jesuit education was to educate the youth. Ribadeneira, a companion of the early Jesuits, he says, all the goodness in Christianity and of the whole world depends on the proper education of the youth. Father Pedro Arrupe, the former Jesuit general, a great scholar, he says, the purpose of our education is to educate men and women for others and with others. In fact, the education of the youth is considered as the renewal of the world in Jesuit tradition. And Jesuits have come up to this stage with thousands of education institutions, educating millions of people. It, it faced several challenges. And what are the challenges we face today? When we look at our time and when we look at the world around us, we recognize several complexities, several challenges. We can identify a few of them. I think that they are the realities of the world. The realities of the world today is unprecedented demographic changes. People have moved from place to place, country to country. Through globalization, there is a tremendous demographic change that has happened. There are reasons for that. There are migration due to globalization. There are also internal conflicts making people to move out from their own native places. There is also forced migration, voluntary migration, and so on and so forth. There are also population explosion, which makes people to move to, to other areas, newer areas. So unprecedented demographic changes is the first thing. Second, there is a growing inequity. It is very sad and pathetic to see that 10% of the rich people controls the 90% of wealth in the world. It's a reality. And therefore, uh, unimaginable inequities are happening. Some people are struggling to have their livelihood. It's a serious a concern for the world. There is marginalization, there is suppression, there is oppression and discrimination against the poor. And the most what do you call it, the victims of these are children and women. There is also polarization and conflict in the world. Polarization due to religious conflicts, due to ethnic conflicts, due to linguistic conflict. So many people are suffering. Communities are polarized more than ever. We see religious conflict happening on a daily basis. Terrorism, violence, bloodshed, all these are becoming a reality. Ecological crisis is a reality. Climate change is a fact we must face. The earth is our common home. Pope Francis has brought out beautifully in 2015 itself, Laudato Si, a study on the global warming and ecological crisis. I think we need to respond to that because this earth belongs to the future generation too. There is an expansion of digital culture, and therefore there is also digital divide. Huge digital divide is happening in within the countries and in the world. We also see weakening of politics as a search for the common good. People are so selfish and self-centered. Our leaders are not focusing on the welfare and well-being of the people. More and more leaders becoming people who are so self-centered and selfish. They are looking for more wealth and money. In this context, the Jesuit ideals of educating people, that what you call educating people for the four C's, are so important for us to understand, because we need to create our people with uh, four C's. First of all, of persons of conscience. That is what our purpose is. We must make our people people of conscience. Conscience means they must be ethically rooted. They should be value based. Second, persons of competence. Competent people we must create. They should be professionally good. They should be able to transform the people. They should be creative in their endeavors. Third, persons of compassion. We need to have a solidarity with the marginalized people, the excluded people. That's why UAP second says walking with the marginalized. And the fourth one is committed people. We must be persons of commitment. Commitment means a faith that does justice. GC 32 onwards, we are saying this. The faith that does justice. That means our education must transform the society. A people who are committed to the society, committed to the ecology. Now, when we talk about this, we have not come up to this stage in Jesuit education with thousands of schools today. According to O'Malley, we had a beautiful tradition, and this tradition enriches us. As I said, tradition is an inspiration for us. In 1540, only 10 Jesuits were there. In 1556, that is 16 years, we had 1,000 Jesuits. And they were all schoolmen. The trademark of Jesuits from the beginning itself was education. Ignatius shows his leadership, committing the society in the schooling for young laymen. Uh, this is something unheard before. Nobody was thinking of educating the people. And Ignatius came out with this. Now, the Jesuits have a new identity. They are known as the school masters of Europe. Not only Europe, they were spread outside of Europe. In 1556, when Ignatius died, there were 30 institutions we had. The schools were the platform for all the good works. Schools provided access to people to get social awareness. Schools became social institutions in that sense. Remember, for us Indians, it is very important to see that in 1543, in Goa, Jesuits started educational institution. St. Paul's School, it is called. In fact, those days it is called college, St. Paul College. Today in Goa, we will find only the facade is there. It doesn't have the building and so on because of the later wars and so on. It was completely destroyed. But in 1543, we had Jesuit school in Goa. In 1546, Duke of Gandia opened a college for non-Jesuits. In 1548, the first Jesuit school for outsiders, they call externs. It was in Messina. In 1551, the Jesuits opened the Collegio Romano, that is a school of grammar, humanities, and Christian doctrine. This is considered to be the mother of all schools. In 1556, when Ignatius died, around 35 colleges, out of them 19 were in Italy. In 1599, The official Ratio Studiorum was promulgated. And Ratio Studiorum, it is for the 245 schools then, a method of study, method of teaching, learning was given. That is called Ratio Studiorum. It's a fantastic book to study. In 1773, Pope Clement XIV suppressed the society. By that time, we had 546 schools in Europe and 123 in the missions, including America and India. It's a fantastic history. And in 2018, in our contemporary year, we had almost 2,300 schools and almost 200 universities. Ignatius had a vision in mind, and that we must recall it, because Ignatius thought experience of his in Paris has given him a thrust to embrace humanism. He believed that educating men of moral integrity is so important for a morally integrated society. Ignatius inaugurated the new era in Roma Catholicism through his educational ministry. In fact, with Ignatius, schools were the hallmark of Jesuit education. Why education? In fact, the first Jesuits, they aimed at helping people in a very qualified and effective way through schools. They wanted to make Italian humanists, their traditions they have borrowed. They also have their own spiritual experience. They had the beautiful reflections on their own practices. They mixed these elements and created an educational formula. So, when we look at Jesuit education, it had humanism as the philosophy of education. Now, why I'm reminding this is because today we must focus on humanism. The world is suffering because there is no humanness in people. People are not looking at a humane way, that people are not educating themselves with the common good in mind. The goal of education is forming good citizens. That is very important to note today. And as I said, Rebellion said, in the beginning itself, I said, all the well being of Christianity and the whole world depends on the proper education of youth. So, my dear teachers, my dear friends, in fact, educating people with humanism, with a certain spiritual outlook, is the soul of Jesuit education. Our tradition definitely helping us to form men and women for others. A Jesuit school, therefore, must promote Ignatian spirituality, spiritual outlook, and embrace everyone as God's children. This is very important aspect in Jesuit education. So from the tradition, as I said, it's an inspiration for us. It's also a challenge for us. How do we make our school so relevant and important today? I think Jesuit education, with its numerous institutions spread across the world, has the richness. All the schools have the richness to face the world. Let us pledge ourselves that we definitely get inspired by the tradition, face these challenges of the world today with a creative outlook and commitment for the future. Thank you very much, and God bless